Before he ever joined the Kranzberg Arts Foundation, I can't talk today. This every time. Before he ever joined the Kranzberg Arts Foundation team, Larry Morris was already part of the creative heartbeat. As a musician, educator, and community connector, his work with the acclaimed hip hop fusion band Ilphonics and his service at the Music at the Intersection Committee made him a familiar face within the St. Louis art scene. Now, as director of programs and partnerships, Morris channels the same creative energy into building bridges between artists, communities, and opportunities, ensuring that the foundation's mission of access, equity, and artistic growth reaches the corner of the city. Welcome, everybody, to the show. My friend, because that's the most important title here, is my friend, my brother, Larry
Yes.
Christopher Morris.
You know I love you. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
It's cold in St. Louis now, but it's good.
I saw all the tweets this morning as I am fighting a flu B as they call it,
Mm.
in the midst of 85-degree weather.
Being sick when it's hot is never fun. Like
It's never fun, and I have a 4-day weekend. You know, I started being a TA last week.
hey.
So that ends my journey of unemployment. And so now I'm sick, and I didn't even know flu had like different types until today.
So wait a minute. You started the job last week, correct?
Yes.
That's why you're sick. So when I
I
worked
know.
in education, when I first got around kids, look, and I'm just gonna be real. I've been around children. We grew up in some situations where everything wasn't always the most clean. We as people keep ourselves clean, but
Yeah.
when you live in certain apartment complexes and all that, it's real.
Yep.
I never had pink eye in my life. Start working with kids, and within the first month, I got conjunctivitis and every disease under the sun. And the doctor was like, "That typically is what happens when you start working."
Yeah. And I work with moderate to severe children with autism.
Mm.
So and on top of that, just them being kids, like kids digging in their nose, all of that, like touching things. So now I'm gonna go back when I go back if I'm feeling better Wednesday. Because like here's the crazy thing is that I feel fine. It feels like I just have sinuses. So when they said, "Oh, we'll test you for strep, flu, and coronavirus," I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." I was like, "It's gonna be my sinuses because I go through this like multiple times, like especially as the season is changing." They's like, "Oh yeah, you tested positive." I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're gonna say I got the Rona." And they said flu B. I was like, "Oh, well, what's that?"
Yeah.
So yeah, it was that. And so I mean, they have me on medicine. So if I'm feeling well, I'll be back Wednesday. But now going forward, hand sanitizer in my pocket
All the time.
consistently. And I'm wearing a mask because I'm not playing with y'all.
Yeah. No, they'll get you sick. And I mean, you named it all. And they kids. So, and props to you because you're working with that demographic that needs that support and that love. So I can't do nothing but show you love. But kids are going to be kids.
Kids are kids.
The kids. You can't do nothing about that. So,
Dog, it's a kid in my class that discovered his penis. Larry. Friday, he pulled his penis out and like rubbed it on a pillow. And I'm just like, where's the Lysol? Because these are like the nap time, like, and you can't get them the nap.
that was funny. And I got a story that's intriguing. So to that point, when I was working in a particular school district, I'm going to omit the school district. There was a kid every day that would come to the monkey bars. He would hold on him and lift his legs up and down.
Okay.
I couldn't figure out what was going on. He just loved doing it.
Uh-huh.
And then one of the teachers I was working with that kind of is doing what you're doing. She wasn't a TA, but more of she worked with our students that had autism and special needs. And this student did have autism. She said, that's how he's pleasuring himself. And I was like, nah. And so me being curious one day, he did it and he got down. I said, hey, come here. Can I ask you a question? Why do you do that every single day? He said, it feels really, really good. And he just ran off. And I was like, okay.
It's he he just grabs it, whereas his brother will slide across the floor and all of that stuff. And so, and it's stress. It's to the point where he is drenched in sweat.
Ooh.
And I, I, I had to tell the teachers I'm like, hey, they're at that age. Like this is TK and kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
He's 6, he 5.
Yeah.
They're at that age. That's
Yeah.
what's happening.
Yeah. And by all means, you know, it's nothing funny in the sense of I don't ever want a person to think we're laughing at, but they're kids and kids do kid things. And sometimes you sit there like, wow, I am witnessing this right now. You know, how do I read? So
it's definitely something to take into consideration because like this, I mean, where you know it's like you're seeing different kids like throughout like the spectrum, and so for the siblings, low key, high key, they need to be separated, but that will require, because this school is so small, that will require one of the kids going to another school. And so, you know, and then she tried to articulate to the mom that they actually should be separated.
yeah,
and you know, growing up, we don't know. Schools really don't put siblings in the same classroom if they can help it.
it's rare.
It's so rare. And so for that to be happening, I told them, I was like, why would they put them in the same class? But also it's the convenience for the mother.
Yeah.
But it inconveniences the class because they're disruptive.
Yeah.
And because one starts and the other one goes and vice versa. And when I got there, the teacher explained to me that she had not taught a lesson since before they got to that classroom. They just transferred in like 2 weeks ago. They got another transfer when I started, and then we're getting another kid Wednesday.
Pay teachers more. That's a lot of work.
They have to pay teachers more. This is it is really sad, and how people feel like they also as teachers, because she mentioned her not being tenured, that she's like, I can't really say. I said, no, you have to say something, or you're gonna bring a camera in the class and give the parents to log in so they can see how their children are acting. But you can't teach. We can't teach.
Yeah.
So
no, it's definitely a different time, and parents is different than how we came up, and that's another story. So.
They are definitely different than how our parents are, and then you know it's really what it's just really interesting. And the younger brother, um the teacher was able to, she was supposed to watch them, like, you know, like what do you call them, like you come in and observe how they're interacting in the classes. For some reason they didn't let her do that with them. Red flag number 1. Yeah. And then she was able to pull like a file on him and connect with his teacher from last year, and she was just saying how much of a menace and terror he was. Like the whole school year was hard.
Yes, it's a name that they have for that file. It's blanking me right now, but I was finna say EPK. I'm like, that's not it. But it's a name for the files that they have that gives you their history. But I can't remember. It'll come to me in the middle of our conversation.
Of course. But you know,
IEP, if I'm correct.
Yes, so what's crazy is that they're saying that the older brother needs the IEP and not him. And I'm like, I think both of them could really benefit from it because of that. But also I noticed that in his autism, he definitely has ADHD.
Oh.
So there's that aspect of it. So you're battling a lot of stuff. He wants you to chase him, and he loves attention. So as long as he want to run, he wants you to chase. I'm not doing none of that stuff. And I told them, I said, hey, you know, we're dealing with kids that mind, like you have to really work with them and create habits for them, better habits. So, okay, he's taking his shoes off.
Right.
Which is a sensory thing. Part of me thinks that it's a sensory thing for him. But when you're trying to get his shoes on, he gonna take them right back off because he knows that you will chase him. They will chase him. I'm not chasing him. I said, hey, stop putting the shoes back on him. Whatever the activity is that he's supposed to do not allow him to do that. Get
Mhm.
his mind going like, hey, if I don't do this or if I do that, I won't have the luxury of doing this. You're
Yeah.
going to have to consistently do it to him because sometimes with kids like that, that's just what it is.
Hmm.
But I said, don't stress yourself out and get worked out when you could put him in timeout.
Yeah.
That's it.
Hmm.
That's it. And
Yeah.
if he hurts himself and you let him play, okay, then he'll learn like, hey, if I do this, I might step on a branch or I might step on a rock that might hurt or something. I can get a splinter on my foot.
Yeah.
He has let him learn that.
Yeah.
Like, there's part of it like, yes, we're holding hands. Yes, we're taking our time. But some kids, you got to let them learn.
I
But with
was
that brother, we're not taking penises out. Okay, put it
no,
back.
no. We
Put
none
it up.
that we won't do. So
Yes. How are you? How you doing? We are in the month of November, the year of our Lord 2025.
yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Navigating it all. You know what I'm saying? Trying to be as communal as I can and thoughtful as I can with all the current situations we're navigating as a country, which always matriculates us as a people because we've always had to navigate these things. You know what I'm saying? This is, I mean, it's all, it just takes a different shape every however many years, right?
Yep.
So just doing it and, just doing my best to stay healthy and whole as best as I can.
What can you do?
That's it.
This all you could do is find, those pockets of joy and hold on to them and just there's a part of us that has to be tapped into our reality, but also disillusioned with reality that I call the J-Lo effect. I'm like, oh my God, we have to be so delusional when it comes to finding like joy and getting what we want out of life. Because if J-Lo can do it, so can we. It's one of those things. But I
I was
want
gonna
to start.
say to that point with joy, somebody said something that I thought was powerful. And she said that joy is a form of radicalism right now. And I
Mm,
and I could not agree with her more. And I'm glad you brought up joy because I think at this particular time, the powers that be want to do everything to take that from folks. It is very easy to do right now. So holding on to your joy and finding your joy is crucial, even in this dark moment.
absolutely. Speaking of joy,
Mhm.
in the midst of the kind of darkness and mourning that I was in recently, what brought me joy was experiencing Maddie, the music at the intersection festival.
Yes.
And it just happened to be, when I came home from my uncle's funeral service,
Hmm.
and Rachel was like, "Hey, do you want to go to Maddie?" I'm like, "That's this weekend, absolutely," because I've been wanting to go for a long time. So take me on the journey, everybody. Maddie is Music at the Intersection Festival. It's a bomb festival that is in my hometown of St. Louis,
Hmm.
and we had a time. The lineup was phenomenal,
Yes.
phenomenal. So give us a little bit of the insight to how pitched, Leon Thomas. We got Lucky Day, which is my man, my man, my man. We
Hmm.
have Patti LaBelle, De La Soul, so
Hmm.
many dope artists coming. So like, let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I sit on a committee and I help inform process, but a lot of that curation goes to our executive director, Chris Hansen. So for those who are familiar with St. Louis, if you're not from St. Louis, you probably be like, I don't know what that is. But if you're from St. Louis and you was outside at a particular period, he was the guy, one of the guys behind Lola. And he moved into this role years ago leading the foundation, and so I got to give him that credit for that. He definitely sits us in a room and we definitely give input when he's booking and whatnot, but I got to give him a lot of love. Maddie is special because it's not like a festival like other festivals. It was a call to action.
Mm.
And with it being a call to action, many moons ago, we had festivals like Lou Fest, but they disappeared. And we never had any festival that was held locally by entities that celebrated our music legacy and who we are as a city. And I think you can say this, um, understanding St. Louis, even though you're in LA, you are from here. We have a rich music legacy, a very deep cultural legacy that, because we're not on the coast, gets overlooked. And what the call to action basically said was we need to be able to have a festival that celebrates those things. And what the foundation has done, because it's through the Kranzberg Arts Foundation, okay? But what the foundation has done and what our executive director has fully understood as he's worked to build this up, and we've worked as a team to build it up, is that it not only needs to bring in the national acts that get people's attention, it also needs to celebrate our heritage and our culture. And you come into the festival, you got to see the best of St. Louis, right? Like the diversity, the food, the things that make our city great. So when you go to these major artists and let them know what this is and what this celebrates, a lot of them want to be here because it allows them to engage in a festival that's different than a Coachella or maybe a Lollapalooza. We have artists that get off the stage and they actually are out in the crowd. You know what I mean? They actually walk around and they're a part of it, and it just really speaks to their heritage of St. Louis and why Maddie now is becoming a cultural institution.
Man, that I mean, just to be immersed in this moment and to see so many people, like you said, of all different walks of life, and seeing people that I have not seen
Mm-hmm.
since I left. Like it was so many people that I saw. I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen this person in 15 years because I've been gone that long. It was just really, oh my God, like it just warmed my heart. And what was dope about that whole experience too is I'm not a Coachella girly or a lot big crowds, all of that. Excuse me, give me a level of anxiety because it's just too many. It's too many people. It's too many smells. It's too much going on. It's too many stages. So you trying to figure out what to go see. What can I sacrifice? But being able to see every artist that I wanted to see in that 103-degree weather.
It was
Oh
hot.
my God.
Yeah, that Sunday, according to what I understand, that was the hottest Sunday for that date in recorded history in St. Louis. So that Sunday was extremely hot, and people they persevered and they came out. And I think you're speaking to what I think is important for people to understand about music at the intersection and Maddie is that it's community driven.
Yeah.
Like it's not about we're not the industry here. Like, and we'll talk about that if we get across that bridge, but we're not the industry. What we're doing is serving as a cultural catalyst for a city that doesn't come up in enough conversations about our impact nationally. And I think the festival is one of the shining jewels and one of the golden pieces of our city that I think in the next few years you're going to see people start to gravitate to. It's going to get big. So
Yeah, I think when we talk about music uh at the intersection,
mhm.
and the intersection when we talk about coastal, east, west, south, and we have to remind people that we have Tina Turner, we had Chuck Berry, we have Nelly, we have Smino. You have so many dope people forget Sheryl Crow is from St. Louis.
Yeah, the
Uh
region. The
you say what?
region, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, I think she went to she's like from St. Louis County, if I'm not mistaken. She went to like Chaminade or something.
Oh wow.
So it's funny um when we really break down like how talented we what as far as act, you got John Hamm, John Goodman, so Sterling K. Brown that
Yeah.
have hit the scene from St. Louis and don't shy away from being from here either. And I think that especially as we see the shift in music more so particularly hip hop, and you see hip hop kind of going more underground, you'll see that people gravitating more of like to like a Smino, or there's other artists, but Black Spade, you have so many other people, Tef Poe, you guys that are there, that are, not as mainstream,
Yeah.
but create quality music.
Yeah. No.
That is something that everybody, I think, at this point, because this goes back to what we were talking about, joy, escapism, and being music, allowing music to create like an immersive experience for you. I think that's what everybody is going to gravitate toward more.
Yeah. I mean, I just got to give my city our roses. And let me be explicitly clear about this. Where we struggle at as a city is that we don't have the industry like LA, Atlanta, and New York. In LA, New York, and Atlanta, you have the labels, you have the music booking companies. In Nashville, let's put Nashville there, right? These things exist. But St. Louis is a proving grounds, and it's a lot of dope musicians and a lot of artists that come through here. I'm for sure if you go look at a lot of national tours right now, you're going to find at least one artist that's either from St. Louis or got their chops coming through this city at some point, right? And if you look at the tree of music, it gets really deep. So let's look at blues. You can't have a conversation about the progression of blues from the Delta blues up to the Chicago blues was electrified without talking about St. Louis's impact on the blues, right? From Petey Wheatstraw to Henry Townsend to Albert King, who he cut his teeth here, and he did go to Memphis with Stax, but he definitely was a force here. You brought up Tina Turner and rock and roll, right? A lot of people credit Ike Turner with Rocket 88, which is considered one of the first rock songs. And if you look at Chuck Berry, if you know music, I don't even got to go into that. It's something that was bred here. Miles Davis is from East St. Louis, so this is the greater region. And you can't have a conversation about the progression of jazz and jazz fusion without him and his mentorship by Clark Terry, who was from Carondelet. We just have not, as a city, done a very good job of marketing who we are. But if you look at it, it's real. Like, I'll give you one more fact that a lot of people here know that people outside of St. Louis don't even know. And you can go research this. The first hip hop song, Rapper's Delight, that went mainstream, it didn't get broken in New York first. It was broken by gentleman James Gates, DJ Needles, that's his daddy, over in East St. Louis weeks before it broke in New York. We've been a part of the musical songbook of America. And I can go even deeper in some other portals, but people should do their research. So St. Louis is not a small city that you can pass over. You got to have chops to play here. You got to be a player. From the guys that go to church, St. Louis is a fusion city. You got guys here that play in church, then they play in jazz bands, then they go play in rock bands, then they go play in, you know what I'm saying, blues bands. You got to know how to play to survive in a city like this, you know? And so with that, our festival celebrates that. And I got love for every other major market. I hands down to a lot of different cities, but you ain't gonna sleep on my town and act like we ain't contributing anything. Our lack of promoting ourselves does not mean we didn't have our impact. It just means we need to do a better job of showing people we're a music city.
Whew, that was a loaded answer, and I love it. There's a lot to unpack there. And so when we talk about community, artists, opportunity, and everything, what does building bridges day to day look like for you?
Well,
or as for our city?
No, 100%. With the foundation, these are gifts that our trustees, Nancy and Ken Kranzberg, want to make sure that everybody has access to. So for me, it's always, how can I find a way to bring in artists and people who are doing good work and bring them into space? I think for me, sis, the biggest thing that I see right now is that St. Louis has to love St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people here think they love St. Louis, but they don't love it the way they should. And let me explain what I mean by that and not trying to be loaded with it. We love a good 314 day and a toasted ravioli and doing the Nina Pop. But when we start talking about how we move our city forward, there are people like myself that are out on the ground leaning in, And there are people who like, it ain't gonna ever happen here. Whatever, like, you know what I'm saying? Crime, all of these things. St. Louis, yes, historically, St. Louis does have some pain points on the way race has happened here. We are a textbook, terrible example of redlining. I do agree with
Yep.
that. I can list everything that's wrong. I've read all the literature from mapping decline to, you know what I'm saying. It's another book, and I can't think of the title of it right now, but it speaks about the broken heart of America. Right? I've looked at the literature. I've read the reports. It's true. The politics here are terrible. It's not good. But this isn't no different than any other major city. Chicago has its problems. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Los Angeles definitely has its problems. But things will change here when the people here decide that we love our city more than we want to sit up online and talk about what it ain't doing.
Right.
And I just don't feel like we've reached that critical mass in St. Louis. Also, we're in proximity to the Rust Belt. So a lot of Midwestern cities were losing population. I mean, you got some exceptions in Ohio, they're gaining, but St. Louis has lost a lot of population because we just don't have industry and things here that make a person say that I want to stay here, you know? And I mean, these are the dark, deep parts of the conversation that you have to talk about. It's not that nobody wants to talk about it, but it's acknowledgement. But on the same flip side of the coin, sis, our creative sector is amazing. The way we have free everything, last time I checked per capita, we have more free stuff to do here than any other city, probably except for Washington, D.C. We believe in paying into our systems to keep our zoos free and our museums open to the public. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a lot of my work is changing the ideology of what St. Louis is and how we perceive our own city. Because if we as civic-minded people start showing up and saying these things matter to us and we're not going to vote for people that it doesn't matter to them, then eventually we'll get that critical mass to change the trajectory. The things are happening here, quiet as kept. And I'm fearful, especially being a person of color, that if we don't see this and we don't lean in, we're going to lose these things, you know. And with the tornado that took place May 16th, there are fish that need to be fried. There are people on the ground making sure people are good and whatnot. But St. Louis has all the trappings needed to rebound and be great. We just have to believe in it, you know.
Absolutely. I think it's one of those weird, interesting situations when you, especially when you bring the tornado and we talk about leadership and then people wanting to be the change that they can see. And there are people, like you said, that will get online and say certain things, but maybe it's like, maybe you need to go be an alderman to get involved in politics and really get into the nitty gritty of stuff. I've seen some stuff where I guess there was like a open forum where I saw like kind of Tefpo was one of the people that was kind of pushing back on everything. And it's like, this happened May 16th. Why does the city still look like this? Even in wealthier parts, like we talk about that Delmar divide, y'all. Delmar, for those that are not from St. Louis, is a street where one side it takes you as you go, I guess, west or yeah,
Most
west.
north and south, but you can
North
go
is
east. The street is east to west, but it's north above it and south below it. Yep.
right. So and when you go toward like Forest Park, which technically would be west or south,
South.
right? Yeah, would be more desirable areas to live in the opposite direction. You have the west side, which is where I grew up, Larry
Mhm.
grew up, uh, and though Larry, you spent a lot of time. You went to U City, so
Yeah, I grew up in U
yeah,
City. My
you grew up
mother
in U
moved
City,
to the west side, but my family's from the Central West End West Side. So
right?
yes.
So where maybe it's not as desirable to and it's clear as day. It's clear as day. And I remember when we came to St. Louis and we bought the damn Internet You Scary podcast and we were explaining to Patrick, he was like, why does St. Louis look like Gotham? And I'm like, well, one, it's winter, but two, actually, they used the map of St. Louis for Gotham. So there's some truth to that. But just explaining to him, I was like, okay, so where we're staying is literally a more desirable area. If you go to where in the opposite direction, if you want a tour, we can show you, like I could take you down my street or whatever. Why it looks, it's kind of more, and it's not that it's desolate, but it's just like
Yeah.
not as pretty. And
Yeah.
so you have race. Race is a huge factor. And I was came across a tweet yesterday where people were talking about, oh, it's really not that bad, or whatever. And I'm like, don't lie. I'm like, and this isn't me talking down on the city.
Yeah.
I said, I've experienced more racism coming back to visit St. Louis than I did living there. And it could be something where, also I only lived there until I was like 21, 22 years old.
Yeah.
And I had you have your certain circles. And so when you move and your mind kind of opens up and you see certain things, and which makes you see things differently. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I cannot believe this is still a thing.
Yeah.
And I remember on a visit coming back, and we went to First Watch. That's my favorite spot. And I'm this nice young man, like he's not young man, well, this dad, white dad, he had some sons, and they said, "Oh, get up." So teaching them manners, like so she can have a seat. I said, "Oh no, they're kids, like it's fine." He's like, "No, they can get up." So I said, "Okay, cool." I sat down, and a lady came and sat next to me, and I'm kind of sitting in the middle of the bench, and I'm talking to whomever I'm with, and this man just comes, doesn't say excuse me, and like sits on me.
Wow.
And I'm like, so aggressively I move, and then I look, I'm like, all you had to do was say excuse me. I would have made more than enough room for you on this bench.
Yeah.
But those are weird things that happen there. But I think it's also, we talk about conditioning when we talked about the kids earlier, and training mind, and but just really seeing the potential that's there and knowing how we can make it better for us. Because like we spoke about this before, everybody can't leave.
Nah, and I don't want to. And this is the thing. I could have. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I chose my family. I can. You better believe the work that I do here. Other cities have tapped in with me like, so what's good? But at the end of the day, and to your point, I agree with it. No, anybody who does our work here does not look at this place like a goddamn utopia. You be foolish to do so.
Yeah.
Never gonna do that. It is racist here. Absolutely. Shout out to Tef Poe, because he's been out there for years pushing the line and all that. Shout out to everybody that does that. I don't necessarily work in that bubble, but I respect those people because I work more in the cultural bubble. But I'll tell you this, I understand the psychology of these folks that's racist here, and you can't back down from them, and you can't be scared, and I'm not. And the end of the day, I don't like to operate from a deficit mindset, okay? And you know me, sis, you know me. Nobody has handed me anything like that. I've had to work through all the same obstacles that a lot of people who live here go through. Yes, have I been blessed? I would never deny that, but it's possible. You see what I'm saying? And what I want us to start thinking about what's possible and how we, especially Black folks in St. Louis, some of the struggles we have is because we don't know how to get together and do what we need to do. Nobody wants to talk about that. And when people do talk about it, it's more of a focusing on the deficit. And all right, we know we struggle. How do we make it work? That takes work. It's cliche. They didn't build Rome overnight. We have to lean into each other, and we can't be so competitive with each other. So another thing, people that, if you're not from St. Louis, don't know, we're not a one city government. You got the city and the county is divided. These are historical things. What is it? The Great Divorce of 1886 or 76. Don't quote me on the year, but it's in the 1800s. Our city separated from the county because they looked down on the county. It was illegal how they did it in the first place. They should have never did it. We as a people don't have time to be divided. I don't care if you from Baldwin and I'm from North City. We Black folks in St. Louis, we got to work together, you know. And I just hope through my work and what I'm doing that I model that behavior, because I've traveled to a lot of different places. Some of them places ain't really better than St. Louis. They just more organized. You hear me? We got more creative talent here than some of the cities I've been to, that some folks they gawk all over, but they're just more organized. And yes, to that, there are better political structures. St. Louis City's political structure is a mess. The charter for St. Louis City, it needs to be rewritten and redone completely. Anything we talk about, go look it up and research if you're interested, because it's a mess. It's a three-way split between a mayor, a comptroller, and a board alderman president. It's something different. And that's a conversation for a podcast, I guess, that's more political. But with that being said, I believe strongly in our city. And so I stay here and I do this work because I know what's possible and what's capable. I have a quote that's on my window right now that I look at every day. And it says, civilizations thrive when men plant trees under whose shade they will never sit. I know that I may not see the outcomes of this work every day, but I understand that if I can convince 10 little kids that they can be like me and they can get into this art world and connect with community and utilize these resources and give them to somebody, that's 10 kids that may convince another 10 kids that they can do it, and we can all figure it out. So no, St. Louis ain't perfect. It's racism. It's all the bad things that a city has, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. And I want to allow my mind being here to lean on the deficit, but on what we can do that's positive.
So as the director of programming and partnerships, what are the things that kind of push you creatively? Like, as we talk about that community aspect, give us a little insight to what kind of is the driving force for you.
What's driving force for me is that I think that our creative sector is doing it better than everybody else. We're figuring it out. I'm sitting in the district where there's $50 million worth of infrastructure and 2 million square feet of space we give to the arts. You know, I think that what St. Louis does well is we have a creative sector that's dope. And that's what drives me. You know, you have to have jobs, you have to have healthcare, and most importantly, you have to have education for a city to thrive. But this is what I always challenge my comrades and friends who are in the other spaces. Let's say that we got our city together and the jobs started flowing a different way and all of those things happen. And 24 and 25-year-olds make the decision they go come to St. Louis. I'm going to take this 6-figure job. I'm going to work in St. Louis. They're going to go into that cubicle or that office and it's going to be great. They're going to get a check on the 15th and the 30th. What are they going to do when they leave work? And that's my world every single day. What are they going to do when they leave work? What are they going to do when they start having babies and they need to take their babies out and find things, right? Education, like I said, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Nobody in my sector argues with the people who need good education. That should come first. None of that. We know that 100%. But what we are doing in the creative sector makes people want to stay. We are, as my supervisor says, your sharpest tool in the toolbox if you can use us correctly. So for me, I am passionate about making sure that these things are accessible, that they are incredibly great, and that when we can figure out as a city what we're doing, people already have this play. They already know that this exists and they can plug into that. And it drives me every day. I get motivated when I go to cities like Atlanta. You know, I get motivated when I go to other big major cities and see what they're doing culturally and like, okay, we can do that here. Matter of fact, we can not only do it, we can do it 10 times better. So it's just a super motivation. My goal in the next 20 years is to have a conversation with someone like you and we look back and say, man, you talked about this 20 years ago. St. Louis is cracking, you know, and Detroit is doing it. Like Detroit, we're a good model of what that looks like. It's deep work. It requires you show up every day and it requires you do the work. We ain't talking over here. We're doing those things as a foundation and we're leading the way on what it should look like. And I think if you all circle back with us in the next 5 years, you're going to be extremely impressed with what you're seeing down here in this area.
So how do you balance the foundations, like big picture mission, with on the ground realities of what the community needs?
You have to actively listen. And I think that's something that we have modeled very well. I sit in meetings sometimes, or I sit in rooms with elders that are the descendants of families that were in the Mill Creek Valley that got decimated during what they called urban renewal in the 50s and the
Mhm.
60s, the Clede town. I sit in communities that's in proximity to our foundation that used to be housing projects. You know, there are apartments now, but they used to be housing projects. I go into communities with individuals that don't leave a neighborhood for various reasons, whether the financial piece of it, or you got individuals who they got ops for real. You know what I'm saying? For them to go. And I'm radical in our welcoming. We're very radical. If you're not going to come to us, how can we come to you? So I'll give you a good example of how we think. Every year for Music at the Intersection, we give out community tickets. We
Okay.
don't wait for people to show up and come pick them up. We go to the community and we get those tickets out. But this year, what we did, partnering with Park Central Development, so that's like the Grove Fest, that area.
Okay.
We partnered with them to figure out a way to create a form that we gave to community hubs, and we let leaders in the community work with us to get those tickets to the people who would have not historically gotten them. Okay. We got over 70% of our tickets in those people's hands.
Okay.
That's the work. So you have to actively listen, and you have to show up, and you have to be receptive to information. Everybody ain't overly excited about everything we do because they either A, don't know about it, or B, they've never had a chance to experience it. You know what I'm saying? You can't get mad at them.
Yeah.
You just have to figure out a way to create access. So I think what we do very well is we actually show up. We outside, as they say, and we hear what they have to say. Miss Audrey Element over Covering It Blue Neighborhood Association, because they're doing some wonderful things with our greenways in here. Like we got to talk about that. The way they connecting the walking paths everywhere is amazing. When we sat down on the couch with her, she said, "So what do you all want to do?" And I never forget what I said to her. I said, "No, ma'am. What do you want from us? What can we do for you?" And it changed the conversation, you know.
Yeah.
So it's active listening, showing up, being, when we in other folks' communities, we ain't telling them what they need to do unless they ask us to be a part of committees like that. We show up and we pick up the trash and we help, hand out the things, and we do the work. And that's what you have to do to build community. And in St. Louis, you know how it is. You from St. If we don't know you, we don't know you. Who is you?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so I need to show up and show you who I am, and then we'll build a relationship. That's important.
Absolutely. Give us a little more insight. You said these walking paths. So tell us about that. I have no clue.
Yeah, so this is outside of my world, but it's Great Rivers Greenway. They're connecting all parts of St. Louis. So many years ago, my mama had said something to me, because my mother was involved with politics for a while because of my family. She said, "Larry, you're gonna be able to walk from downtown to Forest Park. They're gonna have it like that." I'm like, "Mom, what you talking about? You just..." Pretty much what's going on. So they've created these walkable paths with different areas with activations that's going to run literally from Tower Grove Park all the way up to Fairground Park. You can walk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you'll be able to walk from the arch grounds inward to the stadium. St. Louis is really a great city at creating outdoor spaces. And so with that, they're just connecting. It's a lot of walking paths and connectivity. And right now, one of the phases, they're actually going to have the walking path on Grand. If you were driving up Grand towards not Tower Grove, I'm sorry, Fairground Park, that's going to be a walking path. It's going to go past Mother's Fish and all that over to Spring. So it's a lot of amazing things that's going to happen. And that's why the tornado is kind of tricky, right? Because the truth of the matter is they've been wanting that area for a long time.
Yeah.
And now that tornado has come through, God bless Kayla Reeds and the Tefpos and the Ohans that's fighting to make sure that people get taken care of because they're doing the right thing. You know that these folks are scooping in right now, trying to get their property and all of that. So we got to have people who are fighting for those folks on the ground. But Yeah, I mean, it's real developments happening here that I think in the next 10 years, people go wake up and look around St. Louis and be like, this ain't the city that I thought it was, you know?
Yeah. Now I do know one of those development projects kind of fell through recently. It was like a company I think out of Kansas City.
Hmm.
And they were trying to go down Kings Highway, but going Kings Highway toward Highway 70. And that plan just fell through.
Hmm.
And I'm just hoping that that does not become a pattern, and we still see people trying to make progress. Because I know one episode I spoke to one of my friends, one of my male friends that's on the South Side, and we
Hmm.
cracked a joke about, does St. Louis need to be gentrified? And it's that conversation because we talk about safety, building things up, because they always come so far, and then it just stops. And I remember last time when they were even doing that on the west side, like kind of in my area, building up houses, and then they were just shells. Like they stopped. Like people started to seal the copper and all this stuff because they have been sitting for so long.
Yeah.
But I hope that that does not become a trend where we are found stagnant, because like we understand the potential, we know what's there in the city, and actually, like I said, experiencing Maddie in real time and being able to be immersed
Yeah.
with like the vendors and everything, and like you said, the different food trucks and just people really connecting with each other, you could tell that's something that St. Louis really 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 needs.
And I think it's going to happen. And gentrification is tricky, right? Because yes, gentrification historically has been an issue. But I think there's smart ways, and I'm not an urban planner or urban designer, so I don't talk like I am, but I do know that there's great ways to go about diversifying a neighborhood the right way. You
Right.
know, you can never get rid of the people that were there first, but how do you sit and make agreements and put them at tables where they inform process on what things look like? You know what I mean? And
Right.
I think that's one of the things that I'm seeing St. Louis in some capacity try to figure out. Our foundation is very thoughtful with our Arts Place initiative, giving houses to artists and how we go out and do charrettes and go into community and have the conversations.
Mhm.
Partnering with, I was with Aaron Williams, shout out to him for the Ville. We're working on something related to a residency there. We're thinking about these things, but when you're trying to change the trajectory of a neighborhood, that does typically mean you're introducing new items and ideas to a neighborhood. We just
Yep.
can't never lose track of making sure that the people that were there first have a seat at the table and they're heard as well. But St. Louis is going to go through growing pains. And I think it's important that people of our age who are here, we lean in and we do what we have to do. And don't get me wrong, you're going to have opportunities to leave if you have a good job opportunity and it makes sense for your family. I ain't mad at it. I get it. I'm never going to hate you out in LA navigating. I support that. But you never forget. You always come back home. You always find a way to tap in. And that's the thing that I talk to a lot of people from St. Louis about. Yes, go to Dallas if you feel the need. Go to Chicago, go everywhere, but never forget where you come from. And you can support what we're doing from the distance. You know,
Right.
there's ways to tap in. So, yeah, South City's interesting because it is very much gentrified. Like, let's not even call it for what it is. But you think they're not looking at them houses in North City that's just as old and even in some cases even prettier, or the West Side, and not saying, you know what, maybe I can move over here and buy this house, and do the same thing. We just got to make sure that we're not like, because Austin is a very strong example of what happens when the city grows so rapidly, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I think
Austin's black population when I visited was only like 5%. And it was dwindling. Like everybody moved to Dallas or Houston
mhm.
or went somewhere else completely.
Yeah, we're losing population here. I think right now, according to what I heard from the Alderman Laura Keys at one of the openings of one of our venues, we're sitting in the city of St. Louis at 280,000 people. For context, folks, St. Louis was supposed to reach 1 million. By 1950, we had about 800,000 people. But due to racism and all the things we talked about, right? Brown versus Board of Education, white people, white flight out to the county and other places, we've lost population year over year over year. And one of the things we were starting to increase about a year ago before Trump, we had the fastest growing international population in St. Louis. It was starting to happen where we were starting to pull more international populations. But the Orange Man himself found a wonderful way to destroy that right there on the spot. So I don't know how that rebounds, but St. Louis is going to have to pull in Black folks. We here. If you come to St. Louis, you go see it's Black. It's certain cities. Memphis, Black. St. Louis, Black. Atlanta, Black. But we know as a city that if we're going to grow, we're going to have to convince international groups and international people to come to this city and make it their home. We also got to find a better way to retain college students who they come to these wonderful institutions, they get that 4-year degree, they out the door. How do I convince them to stay here? So these are obstacles we have to navigate.
Right.
But I just want people to know who watch your podcast and who are curious about St. Louis. Nobody who does this work thinks it's perfect and thinks that our city is just right. But we are very much dedicated to figuring out how to get it right. And we're at that age where some of us are starting to move into those seats. I think you'll start to see the change in the next 10 to 15 years.
Absolutely. I'm an ageist, so a lot of people shouldn't be in those seats. That's just my opinion. and I feel like that, and not just there. I feel like that about our Senate, our House, our president, all of that. I'm like, why do we have a president that is that old? That's out of touch. But it's just upholding capitalism, white supremacy, and all these different things. So and shout out to New York for taking that change and voting in a socialist that is really trying to, make New York a better place. And hopefully other cities will follow suit because people are tired. We're tired. Everybody's fed up. And it's funny because last time I was in St. Louis, I stopped into Brennan's and the mayor, they, we're in the back part of it. And I was like, I don't live here. But do I go say something like, hey, I no longer live here, but as a concerned former citizen of the city, I have some concerns, like, let's rap real quick. But, it's just like, because I don't understand how you go to like ground zero and all these, after this, and you're there in heels. Like you just came from a wedding, a church service or something. And it's people literally without power. They don't have a home, and you're dressed to the nines to walk through this devastation. It doesn't make sense. It's so out of touch. It's so out of touch.
Yeah. It's optics, and lots of feelings on that. But I think the best way that I can put it is, let's see what you do.
Yeah.
We saw the campaigns and we saw the promises. Let's see what you do. And for me, when it comes to the political landscape of St. Louis, I really think it is antiquated, and I think that it is outdated and it needs to be reimagined. How that looks, I'll be the first to say I don't know. I don't have all the answers. But if it ain't worked to this point, I'm almost positive that it's not going to continue to work if we go forward. St. Louis has to make some really deep decisions and some really pivotal moves to put this on track, and I'm not in the political spectrum like that, but I am an individual who will sit in the room and speak my heart to what it needs to be, or I will sit at any table I can to contribute to a solution of how we move forward. And it's hard. And I think it's important to know this isn't easy work for any of us that want to do it. I get tired. I'm like every other human being, I'm watching my mouth because I don't know, but I sometimes say, F this too. You hear me? But being here, moving it forward is important to me because, I love my city, and it's nothing more inspiring to go to other cities and see people who did it in theirs. I go to Indianapolis and see my friends that cooking with gas. I go up to Kansas City and see what they're doing on the Kansas City side. They're doing a lot of amazing things, So I just think for us as a city right now, we know what the problems are. Who's 10 toes down to lean in and push it forward.
Man, I mean, that's that's all it's really about. It's just about community and partnering with those right people that are actually trying to make it a better place. You know, I feel like I'm quoting Michael Jackson. And I but ultimately it's just seeing the greater good and doing the work, and people don't understand laying how complex laying that groundwork can be, and really forcing people and forcing people's hand, and it gets tough, it's dangerous at some points. We see how things have happened post Ferguson. Darren Seals is one of them, calling stuff out, and we see what happened with that. And so it's definitely a work in progress, but St. Louis is, like, as you stated, has such a rich history, and the city itself is deserving of so much more.
Yeah.
But I want to leave you. I want to make this just a little lighthearted before we wrap up.
Okay.
I recently came out that St. Louis was like voted number one for like singles. Like, if you're single, you go to St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
Larry, tell my girlfriends, where are the men? Where are the men hanging out? Do we have to create a mixer where there are men and women that we vet, and these men and women have to be single, where we research, make sure there are no court documents that have them attached to somebody, whatever? Where are the people? Where are the men? Well,
That's a hard question for me to answer because I ain't in spaces where I'm trying to see where all the men are at. But I
I
will.
mean, that's true, but you have friends, and some of your friends may be single. Y'all might frink with somewhere. But where would be somewhere you would tell a nice young lady to potentially go?
I think you have to find the things that's civic minded, you know what I mean, and join those types of things. Like, it's Good Brothers. I'm not in it, but it's a group called Run Crew in St. Louis. They go running all over town. There's a lot of black men in that, and I'm for sure half of them that I know are good guys. You know what I mean? You got to go find the men here in St. Louis that's doing the work. Look for the organizations that are trying to do positive things in the community and put yourself in proximity to those type of men. Clowns are going to be clowns, whether it's LA or St. Louis, Chicago, or anywhere. But you just got to put yourself in proximity to it, and you just got to play the game. And I'm not trying to say play the game like in a negative way, but that's what it is. If you go to certain environments looking for a certain thing, you're going to always be disappointed, or you're going to be disappointed most of the time, like, it is what it is. So I just think you got to look for the community activations and the things that are positive, and then put yourself there and go into those spaces. St. Louis is small, though. That's the reality. It's not even, what they say is 7 degrees of separation. In St. Louis, it's probably less than 3, maybe 2 on a good day. So you're going to cross paths with individuals that know other individuals and whatnot. Now, I will say, if you can get past some of that, you can't be mad at a brother who talked to a sister years ago and it didn't work out. Like, that's just, it happens. You know what I'm saying? But that doesn't mean that he was a bad guy or she was a bad woman. It just may not work. Yes, there are some spaces in St. Louis where people have fooled around with each other. I don't think that's endemic to any city. But if you want to find a good dude in St. Louis, I can tell you. So, for example, on Sunday, I wrote some poems for a book called Voices that Mike Woods from Dream Builders for Equity, he helped spearhead. We're going to be at the Link Auditorium. It's going to be a lot of brothers in there fellowshipping and community there, and we're sharing our book that we're included in. That's a great space that if you're looking for a guy, you'll probably run into one there. Music at the Intersection, you was there. It was a lot of brothers floating around.
A lot of them brothers was taken. Continue.
Not all, not all of them. Some of them weren't. I know what you're saying, and be
Yeah,
respectful.
oh my god.
Yeah, don't. But they were there. You know what I'm saying? Just be respectful. If you shoot a shot, he like, yeah, I'm taking. Then that's what it is. But I would say to you, events like that, you got to be around civic-minded brothers, and if you're around civic-minded brothers, you're gonna find who you're looking for. And I don't care if it's civic, streets. Bad people are bad people, but I just think there's a lot of good, solid men that are doing positive things that would love nothing more than to go to an event and get introduced to a beautiful woman like yourself or somebody else, you know. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, hold on. The dog.
The dog gonna be the dog. You can't be mad at it.
I am not mad at you, Pax. I'm like, really? We made it to the end and you just was chilling.
Right.
Uh, okay. So I want you to say these because everybody always talks about our accent,
Mm-hmm.
and I want you to say a couple of words
Okay.
before we leave.
This is gonna be funny.
I need you to say oil, iron, brewery.
So oil.
Yes.
Okay. Oil,
Iron, brewery,
iron, iron,
and
brewery.
yes.
Brewery. Did I say it? Brewery?
No.
Oil, iron, brewery. You got me.
I mean, the look on your face when you said brewery was so funny. You was like I have to wait. I have to try to.
Yeah, I'm trying to brewery. But I mean, if I would just stick in brewery.
You so black. You so St. Louis, and I love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
that's what I say. And my lexicon is just fine. I am very educated, and I am a very well-read African American man.
Oh my
But
gosh, you are
you gonna get
hilarious.
these her, theirs, and words. That's what you go get. So.
And there we go. Because I was gonna say here, there, where. Those are gonna be the last ones. But you know what, Larry? It's been a joy to talk to you and catch up and see all the good that you're doing for the city. And actually, that's a really great idea as far as dating goes to find these different events. Someone needs to create like a cultural calendar of events so people can know where to go and just to make community with people, because it's not always about relationships. It's about building that community with each other, which is so important for us in this day and age. I'm huge on that.
We do have one. The Regional Arts Commission created a St. Louis Arts Calendar.
Okay.
That's good. If you can link them to it, I'll send it to you later. But the reality is there's calendars for that, and there's plenty going on. It's more calendars starting to pop up. So yeah. Now it's not exclusively Black, but the director of the Regional Arts Commission, she is a sister, Mrs. Vanessa Cooks. He love her to death. You know, our events pop. You know, so there is a calendar, or there is a calendar for our arts here in St. Louis.
All right, Larry, tell everybody where they can connect with you on the social networks.
Yeah, so if you want to follow me, raise chickens, make hot sauce, and just be myself outside of the arts, it's Fallout Morris on Instagram. I think that's my more relaxed. I'm on Facebook, but my friends, my close friends, that's my space to connect with them. Ilphonics reunites in 2026. We're working on figuring that out. So you can always follow at Ilphonics. We'll be updating social media soon. And if you're interested in the work that I do, please follow the Kranzberg Arts Foundation. Some of you already know of us through Sophie's. That's one of our spaces. The Dark Room. We just opened a new space called The Key, which I'm going to go over and grab something to eat on the way home. We're doing a lot of work in our ecosystem. And if you come down to the district and stop in at the High Low Cafe on a Monday through Thursday in the morning, you might just see me because I do a lot of my work there in the morning. So we here. So tap in, believe in your city. If you're from St. Louis, if you ain't from St. Louis, come on through. I love to show you around and show you what we do. And that's what we do.
All right, y'all. We will see y'all back here next week.
Peace out, y'all.